Uskoro počinjemo sa novom panelnom sesijom pod nazivom Iskustva saradnje kroz projekat Holandska rešenja za sektor bobičastog voća u Srbiji. Moderator ovog panela biće...
Okay, the moderator of this panel will be Marija Ćeklić. Introduction speech we will hear from Fred Evers, coordinator of the Netherland SoftFruit Solutions project in Serbia. After that, we will see the presentation of 7 steps for healthy produce, which will be held by Marcel de Jong from Bodem&Groen. And the panelists will be Marcel de Jong from the Bodem&Groen, Hans Puijk from Puijk Group, Saša Milić from Belgrade, and Fred Evers, coordinator of the Netherlands SoftFruit Solutions Serbia project. And also, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask them. Dear visitors, I will first give floor to Mr. Fred Evers, who is a coordinator of the SoftFruit Solutions Serbia project. He will tell us about this project.
Gospodin Evers, you can, you can start with your presentation.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Anna. I will call you like that, because the remaining part is a bit long for me. We have been working here now for 3 years in the project focused on soft berries, which is called the Netherlands SoftFruit Solutions in Serbia. And we are doing this with 12 companies altogether. And I am the coordinator. I'm not a producer, but I'm more, together with the embassy. We are trying to steer the project in getting it, in giving it a result. And at the end of this year, we are going to conclude with several messages, and I was very glad to see the contribution in the previous panels. Thank you.
Thank you. A još jedan sjajan stručnjak je gospodin Marcel de Jong. On dolazi iz Bodem.
And this is Marcel de Jong. He comes from the Bodem&Groen. They are consultants. Their mission is to use the advantages of the soil and the substrates and show how to increase the quality and how to produce healthy and vital plants and have a greater yield. Mr. de Jong said that he devoted his life to agriculture, but let's hear his presentation about healthy production in 7 steps.
Thank you for this opportunity to bring the health of production in 7 steps. I'm Marcel de Jong. I'm a consultant, like they tell me, and I'm looking mostly in soils and to plants and what is wrong with it and what we need to do to come to a healthy produce. 7 steps for a healthy production, and it's quite simple. You have to do the right things on the right time. It's like in life, like in relationships, you have to do the right things on the right time. And I called 7 steps, but all the other 6 steps are the same. You have always to do the right things on the right time. So Alfred asked me to do a little bit presentation about what I see and what I notice in this project. And I like to introduce the plant health pyramid. It's from John Kemp. It's an American, very interesting guy. You have to follow him if you want to do healthy production. And it's 4 layers of the pyramid. And below you see the complete photosynthesis. That's the first thing that you have to think about. How can I, as a producer, bring complete photosynthesis? The second layer is complete protein synthesis. So how can I help the plant to grow complete proteins? That are the first two layers below. And these first two layers you can easily do as a grower, because it's all about how do I manage minerals to apply to the plants. By drip irrigation, by spreading on soil, by foliar application. That's your job. How to give the plant what is needed for food, minerals, trace elements. And then the third layer is the level that you bring up to your plant to a higher health level. The extra energy that the plant has, that it does not have to need for growth or for feeding soil biology, they can produce in a fatty layer. So if you find in your plant some shiny fatty layers, then you are on the right track. And then the fourth, and that's the top of it, is the second metabolites. The second metabolites mean if you are on that level, that your plant is almost not attackable for insects and funguses. Bacteria, but that two top levels, the point of the pyramid, you only get if you have soil life around your root system. So you need bacteria, you need funguses, all good funguses, of course, around that root system that produces a lot of metabolites, antibiotics, to bring the extra health in that plant. Normally I have all this coming in figures, but it doesn't work here today. So, and to come to that optimus plant health in your crop, you need to manage the sunlight. And what I mean by that, you cannot manage the sunlight because the sun is shining or it doesn't shine. You can cover it a little bit more or less, but you as a grower, you have to manage the one thing that is for free. And the one thing that is for free in life is the sunlight. And if the sun is like a solar panel on the leaves, that energy has to transfer to photosynthesis in the plant. But to have a good photosynthesis in the plant, you need the minerals and the biology at your root system. So as a grower, you need to manage that. If you don't manage that correctly, you find that your plant is not growing as maximum as possible at that sunlight. So you have to give them water, you have to give them food, you have to bring the biology around, that the production of photosynthesis is maximum. So, and if you have a maximum photosynthesis, then the plant will feed the soil life. So that's in general the most important thing, that you feed the soil life. If you grow in soil, or you grow in pots, or in containers, or in substrate, water is a different thing, but in a growing media, when roots are in contact with soil, what type of soil it is, you have to feed the biology, and if you manage the photosynthesis on your plants, that are transferring the energy at the maximum from nitrogen up to proteins, then you have the most effective soil life in your soil. And that soil life is going to help you with a healthy crop and produce. Now, what is there important for is the composition of the soil. The composition of soil is 50-50. And what I mean by that is that you have 50% of sand, clay, peat. That's the basis of your soil. And between those particles of soil is air. You have air or water. And those pores are filled up with air or with water, and that has the other 50%. And that makes that your soil has a good structure, and a good structured soil gives you the best crop production and the best growing of the soil biology. And then you have good roots that have room and space, finding water. Water stays there, and building up a healthy plant that can absorb all the minerals that is necessary, of course. But it also produces a lot of metabolites into the soil. Here you see an example of course, young strawberry roots. And what I always like to see is that you see these hairy roots on the roots, the fine, tiny roots that will absorb all the minerals and water. And then you can build soil. I want to share some insights, details that I saw last couple of years, and the colleagues that were on stage here in the morning said you have to do it right the first time. The 7 steps, you do the right thing on the right moment. And it's very important if you start with growing a crop that you do it from the first time the right thing. It's already said this morning, don't think I can buy cheap plants here because it's cheaper. No, you have to buy good plants. You have to prepare your soil correctly. You have, if you need to use 400 cubic meters of peat into the soil for blueberries, don't use 200 cubic meters of peat, because the 200 cubic meters of peat, that will be cheaper, of course, but I show you it will be costing more in the end. This is a pot of blueberries, upside down, of course, because I am interested not in the blueberry plant, but in the root system in this stage. It's quite interesting, but you always have to think, what is the root in that pot doing? The root has to go down, or growing down. And in this pot, the root system is turning around. And if you plant a plant like this into a soil, the root will go in that soil turning around. Especially if you drill a hole with a bore, then you have, and we call that the pot syndrome. That plant will still growing around with the root system, and then finally, after 1 year or after 2 years, but mostly after 2 or 3 years, that plant will die because the root doesn't come out of that pot size and doesn't grow into the main substrate in your container or in your soil. So it will not grow. You have a big plant above, but with a small root size, that doesn't compare. That small root size cannot grow and help feed the plant as it is this big. So then you get that it will be dying. So always take care of that and do something with it, that it will come out of that pot. On the trip that we made in the beginning of this year, we visited a couple of companies, farmers, that had a very nice mix in the pot. I'm not talking about prices because I don't know, but here you're making a mistake. If you start with growing medium in a pot and plant a small plant in it, and that growing medium is not strong enough that it can build a structure, then it will decline. You start with a 35-liter pot with 35 liters of peat, a mix of peat. It will decline, and then you have an empty, half-empty pot. Then you have to take the plant out and fill it up with peat. You can also do it with a good mixture from the beginning, so that the mixture and the structure stays there, and that you don't have the extra work a second time. Same here for soil. This is a lot of peat. It's 500 cubic meters per hectare. Normally 300 to 400 cubic meters of peat will also be done. But this is important. Start at the right moment, because you can only prepare the beds once. And if you don't prepare your beds correctly the first time, you're going to have these type of problems that I show you later. And also, where do you put the peat? We have a lot of discussion, where do we put the mixture of peat or mixed with other organic materials? You can go wide, but I'm favorite of peat because it stays very long and keeps the structure in your soil. Because a blueberry likes air. And that's not because it likes sourness, acidity, it likes air. And if you have air in your root system, by a blueberry it will grow. And that's the peat for, of course. But the peat, you need to have it in the top 30 centimeters. You make a bed of 50 centimeters, you can mix it by the 50 centimeters, but the root zone of your blueberry will only grow 30 centimeters. So keep the structure in your top layer of your bed. If you're, this is a different presentation. This is what I meant. This is a 15-year-old Duke. It's on a sandy soil. It's only 30 centimeters of roots that you find there. And if you don't do that, if you don't start again, then you can say, okay, I have to prepare all over again, or I try to recover. That's like they did here. This place is, they didn't put enough peat at the beginning. After 3 years, plants didn't grow. First year didn't grow actually. Second year, they don't grow good. Third year, they say most plants are going to die. What do we need to do? Heavy soil, not enough peat, not enough structure in the soil. That means that your plants are not coming with the root system out, and they don't grow with enough good systems. And if they don't grow roots, you don't grow plants. So they cut open the my packs, the plastic foil that was on top of it. And then we put extra peat by extra every plant. That means that we put an extra 400 cubic meters of peat next to extra every plant. That's a lot of work, and you have to spend an extra load of money. Water for healthy production. Of course, water is important. Good water is important. If we say good water is important, everybody thinks good water is clear, has to be good, not too a lot of calcium in. But measure frequently what type of water you have. I see too often that people don't have a recent analysis of the water, because during the period, the season, the water changes. And for example, one place we had very nice water first year, second year we had a lot of sodium in the water and we didn't have an analyze. And no result of that, but we were thinking, why are the plants not growing well enough? So if you have a lot of sodium in your water and you give a lot of water, always blueberry, raspberry, strawberry cannot handle that even, or cherries in this case also. The plant cannot handle this type of sodium levels in the water, so it will not handle and grow very easily. Also, where do you put your dripper? There's a lot of discussions about it. You see here nice pictures about. Now, what I see usually, if we have a dripping system with a computer, a whole system on the farm, people think, okay, I have 3 drippers per plant. I give 1.2 liters per plant every day, but nobody measures. If you have 1 hectare and 1 system, and you measure how much water is coming in the beginning of the system and how much water is coming at the end of the system, there will be sometimes a big difference. Even if you have pressure-related drippers, pressure-related drippers means it goes open at 1 bar, but it will not close. And if, especially on fields where it's a little bit hilly, you see that on the downside of the row, there is more water than on the top. So always measure and be sure how much water you give. That's very important. And then you find out, if you don't measure and you don't go looking, that sometimes, like in this case on the right side, on your left, you see that the last 10 meters doesn't get any water. How is possible? We give enough water, but why are these plants dying? That's because the dripper is full of shit, literally. Smells also like that. But there's no water coming through that. So if you don't measure, if you don't go looking, then you can have sensors in the field. Hopefully they are correct, on the correct place. But if you don't measure, don't go look, then you don't know what you're doing. That's what I want to tell. Go look and measure and see what is happening. This is for commercial issues, I think. No, what I want to show is it's important for you as a farmer or as a consultant like me. I always have my instrument like you see here. I measure always the pH, the EC, the temperature, and the water level in the soil. That's not because I want to know. No, it's important to know, is there something wrong today? Because I have the sensors on my telephone, in the computer. I see how long my dripping system is running, but I want to check, is it correct? Is there enough food everywhere? For example, in a strawberry grower in the Netherlands, we grow small plants, full field. I come check, I see in the top layer, there's no food for the young plants. I don't know if you know strawberry plants, but they need something to eat, to grow, because this grower wants to have heavy plants. So I measured no food, water enough, temperature was perfect, but no food. I digged 20 centimeters deep below the root system. There was a lot of food to find. I called the guy, I said, what happened here? Yeah, I gave 2 days ago, I gave a lot of nitrogen, 200 kilos of gas. So I said, okay, that's good. But your plants cannot reach it. I said, you had a heavy rain yesterday, 50 liters. So if you think I give the plants food, but if you have a heavy rain and all the food drops down to the lower layer below the root zone, that's what you can measure. But you have to go look and measure. That's like they did here one place I visited in the beginning. It's interesting to see how much water is coming out of the pot, and then you can also measure how much water does drain through the pot. You know how much kilo of fertilizer you apply, but here you know how much fertilizer you lose. Also interesting to know. How much rain do I need? And then for water is an issue. How much water can I give? But another issue is how quickly can I lose my water? If I have hilly fields with slopes and the water cannot go fast enough away, and plants are more than 24 hours in water with the root will die. And a die root cannot eat anymore, cannot take any water, cannot take any food anymore. So how fast can you lose your water out of the field? Not only about how bring I water, also how do I lose water. Then about food, this is a nice example. There was a new client of me in Romania. They were picking in this moment, and they still were fertilizer with nitrogen. And they had already shoots about 50, 60 centimeters, and I asked, why are you still fertilizing nitrogen? Yeah, that's what they told us. Okay, very good. Where are your berries growing? Where are your berries growing? Blueberry grows, raspberry grows on the 25 centimeters of the end of your branches. Why do I need 50 centimeters of branches if I only can grow 30 centimeters of branches and have strong branches with a lot of fruit for next year? Think about that. When do I apply? What minerals do I apply at what time? Do the right moment, the right minerals that your plant needs. Especially for blueberries, also for raspberries, but blueberries is very important. Clean for healthy produce. We had a discussion on one field in the beginning of the year here that the grass between the rows was very nice mowed, but all the grass was between the pots. This is a picture from a guy in Belgium, one of my clients. I have always discussion, why do you make beds? I don't know if you see it, but I don't see beds. Below the pots are beds with Maypex, plastic. But this totally full grown with grass because the beds are not high enough made, only 5 centimeters. Grass grows up, and when you mow, you blow all the grass and all the seeds of the weeds between the pots. Now, I don't know if you like to clean between pots, but it's not a nice job. You have to sit on your knees all day long, especially when it's warm and sunny. So take care of that's going to be clean. And how you manage that's also important. I had another picture, but it's not in here. Control healthy produce. What I want to end with is how are you going to manage the diseases and the pests? If you manage like the first slide, the health pyramid, then you know that you don't get diseases and pests. But before we're there, on the stress periods, you go on. Now this is in raspberry, rust. This is in blueberry, aphids. I think aphids is becoming one of the major pests That is what I see in different crops, and we cannot easily control them with the products that we have for this moment. Even in the organic way, the natural product way, we have some solutions, but you have to be very quick adding these products and applying them. But usually you can already downsize the pest events of aphids with no nitrates in your plants. Now, health pyramid. That is a different one. This is a scaled bug on blueberry. If you have this one, you have to be careful. You have to be very strict on this one because it's very invasive, can be spreading very fast. And you see there are two types of pictures. One type is the bug that we normally see on the wood in the wintertime, is the mother. If you open that in spring, you will be scared when you look to a glass monocular. A lot of new scale bugs are there. But you have to look during summertime on the leaves, on the downside of the leaf, on the back. You see white dots. There are the new ones for next year. So you have to be, I think that's is a very invasive disease. My question to you all, you know what this type of disease is? It's a man-made disease. I see too often that people spray with herbicides, not the correct way, not the correct moment, and then you have a kind of evaporation of this herbicide, of grows, you spray too high in the plant and it grows up. This is a herbicide damage. I come too often on places they say, my plant is not growing very fine, they look a little bit strange, the leaves are crawling, the color is not nice. What did you do? We sprayed Roundup. Okay, there's your issue. Or you have a neighbor that sprayed and the wind one that sprayed, also an issue. Be careful with these type of products that you think, okay, I can control weeds with it. The product can also control the growth of your plant. Then I finish, and I like always to invite the producers to start small with trying new things. Also in this case, we hear where your market is going. You want to export your products. You have to fulfill the regulations from the countries where you're going to with your product. And I think that the products that we have today, chemically, are getting smaller, and it goes very, very, very fast. And I always invite growers to start thinking about it, trying about it, small part, to do experience with new products, natural products to control, to prevent diseases and pests. Because I think the time that we are losing a lot of chemicals to prevent and control diseases and pests is going to be very fast, slowing and coming near us. So start ready to experience with products to control some things or to prevent diseases that you're dealing with. And if you did the right things on the right time, you have a good production. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Besides Mr. De Jong and Neves, we are going to hear Mr. Hans Puijk. He comes from the Puijk group, and this group has the blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries, 65,000 of hectares, and they have a demonstration field where they test the various varieties, and they also produce the seedlings, and they also provide consultations to growers. We're going to ask him about the experience in Netherlands and what he thinks about the production in Serbia. Next to him is Mr. Saša Milić. I believe that everyone who grows blueberry knows Mr. Saša Milić because he has been present for more than 2 decades in the blueberry production. He has a digital farm, Berry Log, and he's going to speak about his experience in here. First, Mr. Evers, I'll give the floor to Mr. Evers to explain to us what does it mean, Holland Solutions for the berries in Serbia? What does it mean? How the project operated and what was the goal of the project?
Well, thank you very much for giving me the occasion to explain what we have been doing the last, say, 3 years. We are with a group, we try to represent the Dutch soft fruit sector from the Netherlands in Serbia. We heard this morning quite a lot of interesting discussions, especially the presentation of Mr. Schouten, which has given you an insight into the organization. And I think his message, cooperation, this is a very important issue. That's also what we want to share within our group. We work together in the fruit value chain. We have 12 companies from the growers, so starting material, implementation of orchards, greenhouses, tunnels, whatever, and also the post-harvest aspect. If I start with the last one, that's what we usually say in these kind of activities. If you harvest, it is not only the 7 questions what was raised by Marcel de Jong, they are very important, but finally come up with the harvest. And during the harvest, you have to get your product, your soft fruit, within 1 hour in a cold storage. If not, you better forget about it. And then we get the problem, what was raised in the previous panel. What can I do with second and third class quality? You can bring it to the producer, you can bring it to the processing plant, but you cannot sell it to the supermarkets or not sell it as a fresh produce. All these aspects which have been dealt with this morning are part of the activity of our project. So during the project time, during the 3 years, we participated always at the international agricultural fairs, like in Novi Sad. This is the 3rd panel on soft fruit production. And besides of that, I am very glad to see quite some familiar faces who have been invited to the Netherlands to see how we are working, because it's better to see it in the Netherlands than trying to explain what we are doing. One picture says more than 1,000 words in that way. So that is what we are trying to do, to give you an insight in the Dutch fruit value chain. And besides, one important issue, be transparent. Often we sell the Netherlands with a kind of, not a magic formula, but with a normal formula, which is called the golden triangle. The golden triangle is actually an open cooperation between research, between the producer, the business, and between the government. And then you might say, what can the government do in this play? Well, we heard this morning about UPOV, plant breeding rights. The whole matter of enforcement only gets trust if we have the full support of the government. So the Ministry of Agriculture in Serbia is the main player, a main stakeholder, that you get your right varieties, and also that you are not depending only on the trade windows, but as Mr. Richard Schouten said, you have to be a supplier during the whole season. You have to import products, it's crazy, but it's true. You have to import to be a trustful exporter to the EU, for example. Or the example which was said this morning, that the supermarkets cannot afford, and I'm now repeating also some words of Mr. Schouten, they cannot afford empty shelves. So they pay whatever you ask for. And that they even were importing Serbian products for a Serbian supermarket chain to have a full shelf. So there are many examples which I could give, but I think this might be enough for the time being.
Da, ovo je za početak odlično.
Yes, for the start it's excellent, and as Mr. Evers mentioned, it's better to see than to talk about that. Mr. Milić was there. He was in Netherlands. So tell us, what have you seen? What was the most interesting? What's your experience about that? Before I answer your question, I would like to express my gratitude to the Netherlands Embassy for organizing and implementing this project throughout the 2 years, which personally to me meant a lot, both professionally and personally. I would like particularly to thank Mr. Fred Evers, who really professionally and devotedly walked us through the Netherlands, and we had an opportunity to directly contact and participate in some new networks that will be of importance for our future. Let's get back to the study tour to Netherlands. First it was the forum, and then we went on a trip, and we visited a cluster of 12 Netherlands or Dutch companies. We learned about the way they operate. I have been working with some of the companies from the cluster. Now I established a cooperation with the 2 new ones, and I started collaborating with Puijk group, and I feel more safe working with them. I have a lot of experience, but with Hans' presence and consultation with him, I feel better, and I hope that I will learn more through their consultations, and I hope that my production will be raised to a higher level. That was a primary part that had a good impression. The secondary thing that I noticed, we who traveled to Netherlands, we started communicating and collaborating with each other, which was quite surprising to me. In Serbia, we were very close, maybe 1 hour was the distance between us, but we did not collaborate in such a way until we visited Netherlands. So this trip made us closer, and we started thinking how our local collaboration would be raised. Mr. Puijk, as Mr. Milić told us, when you showed trust to one producer to establish collaboration with, so you come to Serbia very often. Can you tell us, so what is our production of berries in Serbia look like?
Hello. Yes, it's working. Yeah, very good question. On this moment, I'm traveling more often to Serbia. I entered this SoftFruit collaboration like 1 year or 1.5 years ago by a presentation also over here. From that time on, I discover a lot of things in Serbia. I see a lot of opportunities, challenges, and that's also the thing what I want to say. In the beginning of this conversation, there was something about plant protection, breeding, and so on. On this moment, and maybe I'm very rude, I'm Dutch, sometimes I'm very direct, but the less good varieties are sent to Serbia. This means when the variety is on the end of the career, so the money is already made, the plant breeder thinks about to stop with it or something like that, then they send the variety to Serbia. This is a pity, because you can never compete with good varieties which are not sent to Serbia yet. So this is one of the things what I find quite annoying, because when you want to help somebody in Serbia with raspberries, you like to have also the right varieties. So I'm figuring out how to do it, how to get the right varieties over here, but it's not really easy. Other point is, when you have the way of growing in Serbia is a little bit like my father or grandfather did, and there are some growers who are now getting a higher level. But the main amount of growers in Serbia is in another working in another way. So when I cannot compare this with Holland. Holland is a different way of working. We have a very high labor cost, so everything has to be perfect, 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 perfect. Quality has to be perfect. We need to have the right amount of kilograms on the right timing. So how do we know this? We first talk with the supermarket what they want to have, and then we produce, or we try to produce, what they want to have on that moment. And over here, this is just like 10 years ago in Holland. Over here, it's more, we have production. This year went well, so we do next year 1 hectare more, or 5,000 meters or something like that. So this is thinking all the way around, because you need to produce what your client wants. So I think this is the biggest difference, in my opinion, because you don't have the variety sometimes. You do not have the quality on the right moment, so you cannot provide the right quantities to your client on the right moment, and this is very difficult. So the big difference between here and Holland is we try to have the right variety on the right moment with the right quantities. And I think when I look in the situation, when I can compare, this is the most critical thing. Yeah.
Gospodine De Jong, čini nam se da je
Mr. De Jong, it seems to us that the difference, among other things, is that it seems to us that if we have high yields, it doesn't mean that we have a good quality product, and the vice versa. How we can achieve a high yields and a good quality, and on the other side, a safe product.
The first thing is, the only thing that matters is quality, quality, quality. Wherever you want to sell, quality is the most important thing. How do you get quality? That's first of all, do the right things on the right moment. Good quality of fruits you get with good fertilizing. Give the plant what it needs at the moment that it needs. And what I see often is that plants or in soil or in containers, sometimes maybe in this region more in soil that is worse than in pots, that they give too much nitrogen. I'm a little bit different than most other consultants. Nitrogen is not my friend. And nitrates and nitrogen is not a friend of quality. So I think there you have to start to look at the balance between the minerals that you give, apply to your plants, and what system that you also grow.
Gospodine Miliću, govorimo o tom...
Mr. Medić, we are speaking about that how producer can improve the quality, and the start is with the plant. And after that, there are some key points that have to be observed so that we have a good quality product in the market. Where else the problem occurs? Well, this question has various aspects. The problem can occur in the very production, in the growing. If we do not have a protected production, which we've heard at the previous panel will be the future of our production, our destiny is that we have a production in the open air. Well, most of the production in Serbia is like that. So we depend on the weather, as was the case this year. Sometimes, even if we have a lot of experience, we could not respond to all weather conditions that affected us. So we can produce, technologically speaking, we can do everything as it should be, and to do our best to harvest at the right time. not as it was this year, because we had a disaster, because the first quantities that were exported visually looked very good, but I think that they were not of a good quality. Our cold stores are not ready to control the quantities and separate the good and the bad products. I went to Dutch pan centers and I looked how they do that. My recommendation is to start implementing this here. So every part, every grower should be taken randomly their samples and leave to be frozen and see how that product will appear later. So there are growers, they want to, for example, to cheat on you. I had a practice when they, for example, growers would harvest a wet berry and then dry it and they try to sell it. But the point is that when a truck is returned from Netherlands, we need to know whose fruit was bad. And we are going to sample the product from each of the producer and leave it in a fridge and see what producer made a damage. And not not to have a situation where the good producer would have a problem with this. So the cold chain and the management till the final consumer is important. That's what I've noticed that was the key this year and that was missing. Mr. Puijk, the fact is that this year was difficult, particularly in Serbia, and particularly for the production of blueberries and strawberries. There are some varieties that are easily transported. They have better traits and can be better preserved. But we heard at the first panel that not all varieties are good for every microclimate. So what is that we can apply here from your experience? For example, you said that our varieties is not good. What can we change and later technologically to do so that we have better yield of raspberries and the blueberries?
First of all, we talk about quality, and quality is quite multi-interpretable. So what is quality for me can be different for you, and quality for a supermarket is maybe a different quality for a wholesale. Maybe the quality what is for export is maybe far too good for a wholesaler. So the quality, what is needed, is relative. This means when you have an export product and you have to send it throughout Europe to Norway, it is a different quality, or it need to be different. At least the minimum level of the quality have to be different than the one who you sell over here on the Belgrade market. So first of all, quality is multi-interpretable, so look out for that. Next to that, varieties and the quality, and the yield and varieties. First of all, you can have very difficult varieties with a very nice quality, but the difficulty of some varieties which are introduced in Serbia, which are relatively new, is that they need more knowledge to get the right amount of fruit and the right quality. So this means strong fruit which can handle a long trip. So this quality is not only about the variety, but also about the treatment. Also, as Marcel say, some varieties need another treatment, another variety. So when you are testing varieties over here in this climate, it is very nice, but the variety on itself already needs different feeding and water and so on as others. So when you are making a trial station and you have 5 plants or 10 plants from something, it is very difficult to make a good database, because you give all the plants the same amount of water or the same amount of feed. So when you do trials, it have to be very careful and properly done with a right amount of plants. Next to that, variety issues. Of course there are variety issues. We know that some varieties are in certain circumstances more sensible for soft fruit or soft skin, or difficult to pick when it's cold. This is possible. So it is which variety is suitable for your farm. This means when you want to produce in the spring in a tunnel, you need an other variety, or maybe you need an other variety than in the autumn outside for freeze market. So it depends a lot when you grow the variety, and also the feeding and the management is very important, that you adapt it to the circumstances and to the variety itself. Are you growing them in pot or in the soil? Are you having bad water or good quality water? Are you growing in a tunnel? Are you growing outside, greenhouse? Everything are all things what are very important to manage. So it's not only about the variety, it's also about the knowledge about the variety. And on this moment, the knowledge is not in Serbia. Why? Because the introduction of the variety is very late. So this means over here varieties are introduced which are already 10 years in the rest of Europe. One of the difficult things is when it's more than 6 years already in the rest of Europe, you cannot protect it well anymore. So we need to be faster. Then another point is, these old varieties which are sent to here are like leftovers for Europe. And this is with a reason. So when we are getting the newer genetics, then we're getting also better quality or better yields, and so we have to work on that, I think. And I wanted to ask some questions in the first panel thing. I try to convince breeders to send their varieties to Serbia. I cannot convince them with the information I have till now. So on this moment, it is for me slightly impossible to have good varieties. Bad varieties always easy to get in Serbia. To get good varieties to Serbia. So when somebody can make a paper for me, how I can convince the breeder with something like guarantees that the plots are controlled by a government or other institution, then I can convince a breeder. So I think variety question is more about, it's a variety thing, but it's a Serbian issue in this moment, because I cannot introduce new ones. Yeah.
Yes, we mentioned varieties and you speak about that, but that's something that we have to work on, and we have to improve on that. And we spoke all the time what we need to improve. But what are our advantages in Serbia compared to other East European countries regarding the berries production?
But because first of all, the amount of light in the spring is very nice. So I can have, when I plant a plant of Mai, when I plant the same plant in Holland or in Serbia, due to the light, and this year, I can produce more berries from the same plant over here than in Holland. So the production can be higher over here. The potential is there, only you have to get it out. Next to that, Serbia have a very nice spring and nice autumn. The difficulty is more in the summertime. One of the nicest things in the spring is you can, without a lot of heat, you can have very early berries. Only it is really, really, really difficult to do with a lot of risk. So with a very high investment. So a lot of people are now thinking, yeah, we have to produce berries in spring, but it is very difficult. You need to have knowledge. On this moment, there's no knowledge about it. So, in my opinion, so there will be mistakes made. These mistakes will be huge. So when all the pioneers over here are having these issues. So the nicest thing of Serbia is the labor is quite cheap, relatively. For example, in my farm, I have a farm in Holland, we have to pay the pickers €12. The cost of myself as a company is €20 per hour. Over here is around 4 or something. So this means 5 times more in my country. So this is a very big advantage. Other big advantage is it is not in Europe, so we have also easy connections with other countries what is not in Europe, because I cannot sell to some countries which you can sell to. So we have also other opportunities. So, and the soil is very fertile. The water in general is not that good, but you can treat it well. So there's a lot of easy things. The soil is relatively cheap. So yeah, there are a lot of opportunities. Only you need to produce what is necessary. So first you need to have the client before you're going to produce. That's, I think, the most challenging thing. Yeah.
Gospodine De Jong, evo čuli smo i od gospodina Puijka koji ima iskustva.
We have heard that our country is good for berry production, but it means nothing if we do not use it in the right way. You, Mr. De Jong, talked about the standards. When you talk about standards and small producers, then there is this issue of investment. Also, when we talk about biological production, then it's also important. But do consumers in the Netherlands, they understand that they ought to pay more for a good product? It seems that in Serbia the situation is not such. What can we do in Serbia about that? How to make more investment and ensure that the market accepts it?
That's always interesting. I worked for more than 25 years in just organics, especially in Belgium, in all kinds of situations. It is and it still is hard to get people into organics, to buy organic products. You have the disadvantage that organic products usually are more than 30% more expensive. We see with the crisis that we passed at last year that the sales of organics has dropped with 30%. So a lot of farmers in Belgium and the Netherlands that are producing organic rethinking about what are we going to do for next year? What are we going to produce? So that what I understand from these countries, Serbia, Romania, because I'm a little bit more active in Romania, is that nobody is, or more or less nobody is interested to pay more for organic. People want organic. As in my country, if you stand in the door, we did some experiment. We were at the beginning of the big supermarkets and we asked, what do you think about organic? Everybody says, yeah, that's good, we want. If you checked what the people have in their buckets when they come out of the supermarket, why didn't you find organic good, but you didn't buy? Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive than the conventional thing. There's only one way to convince people to buy organic, is that you have to produce all organic and nothing else. That's the only way to get there. That's not an issue. That's not possible. I don't think that is also not necessary. But what I always like, and that's most of my job, is that how can we, the natural principles that are usually in organic, implement in a conventional system to bring more nature into the conventional system, that that people don't want to buy or pay more for organic and natural products, get a healthier system. Because I'm very convinced that if we as a grower bring more health in our system, bring resilience in our soils, in our substrates. Bring resilience in our soils means healthy plants, healthy production, that on the end of the line you will gain more, you have more rendement of your company, of your farm, with these principles to implement. And not just go running on the way you're doing, but like I invite everybody just at the end of my speech, try to do small things and to take these steps to get there.
Gospodine Evers, čuli smo prednosti Srbije u proizvodnji bobičastog voća I šta bismo mogli.
We have heard what we can approve in Serbia. I suppose that this is the reason why you came to Serbia and why you cooperate with the Serbian berry producers.
Question, but I think one thing is clear, what has been explained by Hans Puijk, that Serbia is a real powerhouse for the production of berries. You have the potential, you have the capacity, you only need to steer a bit with the advices of Marcel de Jong, my right-hand person here. So I think concerning that, there is a big future for the producer. However, then again, we have to make a difference between hypes and trends. Everybody was thinking about blueberries, that's the future. But I think thinking about frozen to fresh, think about raspberries, that's in your genes. Raspberries is Serbia. And unfortunately, everything is, well, not everything, but I think I'm not sure about the numbers, but about 90% of the raspberry production is just amorph product. It goes into the smoothies in Western Europe. So you are exporting your added value. Keep your product at home. Do the packaging and make the certification and so on and so on. And there you will get a much better price. Then one additional remark, but as I said, I am not a grower. But what I heard about people around here, that if you use new varieties, it is no rocket science to get a yield of 5 times as the average yield in Serbia. That's one item. The second thing is, if you go from frozen to fresh, your kilogram price will be 3 times as much. Of course, you have to deliver A-class quality. That's actually my message, but as an outsider, but I see it, I hear it, I feel it. So.
Gospodine Miliću, da li je ovo izvodljivo?
Mr. Milić, is this plausible? You are producers. Can we export fresh and not frozen raspberry or berries in general? In a way, we are already such an exporter, but we do need the support and we need more education, more training. We have already talked about that, about the production process and what follows after the harvest. In Serbia, we do not have a problem with that, but we need to work more on the quantity that we of our fruit, on the yield. What I have seen is that our entire production. And this is not what we are talking about when we talk about blueberry and maybe raspberry. Blueberry serves the purpose of trade. selling fertilizers, pesticides. That's the primary thing, not having a high-quality product. That's a trap. And many producers here believe and suffer because of this. What we need to educate the producers and to increase the yield on our fields. Mr. Evans, it seems that in Serbia we do not know much about private public partnerships. In the Netherlands, you have many PPs. What does that mean, and how it helps with educating the producers?
Well, your question is exactly the point why we are here. We would like to demonstrate that we don't know exactly if we are. I'm representing the business side, but we don't know for sure how to handle everything. So we depend on people, on your government, we depend on research institutes, we depend on better education. We have to improve the, how do you call it, the vocational capacities of the people in the field. There is a huge problem. At the moment you see a big influx into the cities. There is hardly any labor on the countryside. We in the Netherlands are facing the same. It's all over the world. Everybody thinks it's in the cities. No, it's not in the cities. I think you can make really a profit. You can really make a good living as long as you also take into consideration that education and vocational training is an issue. Within our concept of what I called before the golden triangle, we have the government, we need them to respect plant breeding rights. We need research institutes, again, to have proper research, but also proper vocational training. How to prune, how to pick. These are essential issues to end up with a good quality of product. And then, of course, you need the business. And I agree fully with Mr. Milić that some producers are driven by trade. Some producers are forced to use certain growing techniques. However, they are losing track of what you really were. And you are raspberry growers. You have affinity with the country. And I think there you should work on much more, which unfortunately is not always the case, what I heard this morning.
Gospodine Miliću, možete li nam evo...
Mr. Milić, can you conclude what we can use from the Dutch practices here with regard to blueberry or other berries? We said several times, and Mr. Evans said it quite well, also Hans and Marcel. What we need education of the producers. We are not at the level at which we need to be. So, in my opinion, we are now initiating the transfer of knowledge to our country. Namely, every producer in Serbia needs to know what is the right knowledge to distinguish between the fraud and the right product, not to let the traders impose some extra things on him that he does not really need. And we need to take advantage of the cheaper labor that we have compared with the labor in the EU. But what we need the transfer of knowledge, and we need the practices that are used elsewhere. So we learned from our fathers and grandfathers. What do you say? How prepared Serbian producer is to use the experience of the Dutch producers?
There was some delay. What was the question? Could you...
How much our fruit grower is ready to listen to you and to apply the technology that is used in Netherlands?
Very good question. When you are changing a way of thinking, first there need to be an urgency. So on this moment in blueberries there is a certain urgency. So when there's an urgency to change the way of thinking, some people feeling this urgency and some people do not feel. And of course, this is also happened in the Netherlands. In 2008 and 2009 were very bad years for the SoftFruit, mainly raspberry, blackberry, and so on. And a lot of companies did not survive. Why? They feel the urgency too late. So hopefully the ones who feel the urgency on time are willing to cooperate or willing to achieve the knowledge. And how many people there are, I don't know, because I don't know everybody, but the ones who are feeling the urgency to change, it can be in raspberry or blueberry or blackberry, doesn't matter, they need to do the first step by themselves.
Thank you. I will ask Gospodin Evers.
Mr. Evers, can you tell us in numbers about berry production in Serbia? And let's wrap up with that, with those numbers.
When we started 3 years ago in a public-private setting together with the Dutch government, they asked me the same question. So I came up with a kind of analysis of this country where you are dealing with 20,000 hectares of soft fruit. And I don't know whether somebody is here from the Ministry of Agriculture at the moment. It was said at the Ministry of Agriculture, we intend to go from frozen to fresh within 10 years. So we are intending to change every year 2,000 hectares from frozen to fresh. Now I know myself this is not real. 2,000 hectares per year, it's even not possible in the Netherlands, where we have high tech, where we have a lot of things quite well arranged, and even we don't have the land. So that's no question about it. But here it is really a big problem. Because you cannot make your extension, now let's say it different. If you want to apply modern techniques, you are faced with the economics of scale. And if you apply the economics of scale, you cannot grow a good production on a quarter of an hectare. So the backyard farmers are phased out. That's an important issue because the majority is backyard farmer. And that's what we also heard from Delhaize this morning, or in the previous panel. So they are very selective in the orchards who apply up-to-date techniques. So what we see in Serbia is that the traditional growing areas, like Arilje, it's crowded. There is hardly any place for somebody to extend his fields, unless his neighbor is dying. But then there has the family there. So it's so very complex. So the future is to look into modern techniques, but also, and that's the message, go to new growing regions, whether it's Vojvodina, whether it's Sabac, but not in the very traditional regions. That is actually my message, yeah.
Hvala panelistima. Nadam se da je bilo interesantno. Da li imamo vremena za neko pitanje?
Thank you to our panelists. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes? I'm Miroslav Nikolić. I come from central Serbia. I want to say a couple of things being the producer. I have a family farm on 15 hectares of SoftFruit and 5 hectares under blueberry. I would like to commend your third panel. This idea was wonderful. To do the right things at the right time. Well, if we have heard that in the beginning, it would save us much energy and resources. I would like to thank the organizers. And I know people from the Dutch embassy. I would like to thank them for organizing this. And I'm really glad that I was a member of the team that who visited the Netherlands. We really had a nice time there. We saw things and we received many information, wonderful contacts, and thank you for all that. But I want to make some comments. You will not hear in Serbia a lot of things because in 2017, we raised 5 hectares and the blueberry in containers. And we were transferred information, knowledge, contacts, everything outside Serbia. We practically had an experiment on 5 hectares, and you can only imagine the investments we made. It was in central Serbia. We had a family experimental field, a demo field, and we organized 2 conferences. Vlada knows about that. And I support Vlada's efforts in this sense. We had a conference and we took them to our demo field to show them what we did and what results we made and what mistakes we made. That was the idea of my team. Yes, Saša is right, and it was the first time that I hear that somebody says that they just talk about having a good contact with folk and getting many planting plants and so on and so on. But in the end, I want to stress that I genuinely believe in what you said, and that's what we need to do to overcome the problems. I will say, with the plant team, I did this on apple. The first intensive plantation of apple. That started in 20,000 all over Serbia. But why we had better results with apple than with blueberry? Because you can keep apples in your cellars, outside, wherever, and for 2 or 3 months it will survive. But when it comes to blueberry, raspberry, strawberry, that's not going to happen. And Marija knows, and thank you, Marija, for mentioning that. They said that they keep blueberry from Peru and Chile for 4 and 5 months. Mind you, 5 or 4 months. Does that is that so in Serbia? And what we did, we had loans, we had subsidies, we made this plantation. Some of us dared and built the cool storage, and then we got into problems with consultancy services. We did not have consultancy services, and that's what we lacked. Post-harvest is with us from the very first moment, and they share experience with us, and what we need to market our blueberry. Let's not mention how, when you mention Netherlands, well, some people did not really treat these things as well. That's my experience, the experience of a Serbian producer. And myself and my family and my team, we will always come to the conferences like this. I wish we had more conferences with the Dutch. We are prepared to pay for that. And I would like to reiterate, if we take our experience with the apple, it was about individuals and the individual efforts, and we managed to have results. And now with the blueberry, we invested a lot of money, but we need more people like Saša. We need that in order to make a step further. And the assortments of berries, sequoia and everything. And you know what happened with the apple. A golden delicious was the problem. And we are doing this the same way. Just I would like to apologize for saying all this, but I want to tell you how we live and how we work. Once again, thank you. You are great professionals. Thank you for doing this for us, for small people, investing a lot in our production. Thank you, Mr. Nikolić. Thank you to our panelists.